Good evening, one and all. Today, me, my friends Rajesh and Ankit are going to present the topic on Scrum. So today our agenda would be we are going to discuss what is Scrum, where and when was the Scrum invented, and how and why of the Scrum. So who and when? In 1995, the two persons named Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, they both presented a paper on the topic controlled chaos and living on the edge in Uppsala, 1995. So what is Uppsala? Uppsala is basically an object-oriented programming languages and systems and architecture. It's a conference, and in this conference, it is held every year in US. And it basically this conference is to have a discussion on the latest software methodologies and the upcoming trends of the software industry. So when they presented this paper in 1995, it made a complete sense of the complete understanding of the complexities of software development and management till date, project management till date. So why Scrum? So during late 1980s and early 1990s, Ken was an expert in process-centric and rigorous methodologies. So during his with his experience and during his tenure, he understood that software increasing detail and specific methodologies like having more number of tasks and jobs with each supporting documents was very cumbersome and it was having a basic fundamental flaw. So Scrum's approach. So Scrum's approach is the belief that software development was having a wrong philosophical basis. And Ken's assertion about the software development is that software development is not a defined process, but it is an empirical process. We are going to discuss about the software defined process and the empirical process in the upcoming slides. So let us discuss about the Ken's findings, that why he has gone to Scrum's approach of the Scrum. So during his investigation of industrial process-centric process control, he understood that the difference between defined and empirical process was not only profound, but it required different managerial style, completely different managerial style. So let us discuss what is defined process. So in defined process is a process where basically it is we are going to have like a physical and chemical law where we get an input and we get an output, and this process can be repeated a number of times with little or no variation. So and what is an empirical process? So empirical process does not define this law of the input and output, but it is a constant development and evolution. Like basically empirical means experience. So whatever you do is that you try to focus on that particular concept, particular topic, and try to give your best with your experience and with a constant feedback. So Ken states that developers and project managers are forced to live a lie. They have to pretend that they can plan, predict, and deliver. What does this mean is, like, as there is no defined process, no one can judge or predict what the future could be. So they try to give the best shot with the best shot, and we'll see how it takes place in the upcoming slide. So what does exactly Scrum mean? Scrum basically, if you see the image, you can see that Scrum is basically a rugby term where the two opponents, two teams hurdle along opposite to each other and try to advance with a feet. So when it comes to the Scrum, can state that it's adaptive, quick, self-organizing, and have few risks. So as you can see, the title they have mentioned is also Control Chaos, Living on the Edge, where every team organizes themselves and they're quick and very adaptive to the situations. So let us start discussing about the Scrum. So Scrum believes in the premise says that it's a complicated word. So nothing can be judged, nothing can be predicted, neither the cost of the project nor the timeline of the project. Neither of things can be predicted. So I'm sorry for that. Nothing can be predicted. But if we bound this empirical process with constant customer feedback or a constant feedback with the product owner and monitoring the process explicitly, then we can lead to a success or else a good good output. So and Scrum is basically it's a main focus of the Scrum is project management. Project management. So let us discuss about the Scrum process. Scrum process includes it's a project management framework and it includes requirement gatherings, design, and programming. And development phase in Scrum is usually varies from 2 to 30 days, and each development phase is called as a sprint. So in this Scrum framework, we have pre-sprint, sprint, and post-sprint. Let us discuss about the pre-sprint. So looking at this image, if you see, this is a whole sprint process, and I am going to discuss about this, where it includes pre-sprint. So pre-sprint is nothing but planning for the sprint. It's a meeting, and what are we going to do in the pre-sprint, and we are going to discuss in detail in upcoming slides. So what is pre-sprint? So let us say a product owner or a person, let's say investor or product owner, he wants to develop a product, and he comes to our company and he wants to have these particular features in his product. So whatever features he has given, we'll try to it will be called as a series, and those product features are nothing but a series of backlogs. So in this backlog, what do we have in this backlog? In this backlog, we have business and technological features and vision for this product. So we might have this question that who actually decides product backlog features? So it is basically the product owner who decides on the product backlog, and it is sometimes team developers and the product managers are also involved in this process for the better refinement of the process. So product backlog. So after the product backlog has been created, it gives birth to release backlog and sprint backlog. So release backlog is nothing but, let us say we have 100 features defined for the product backlog, and for this particular release, product owner wants to have a certain number of features. So we define those features as a release backlog. So we define that as for a release. And once the release is done, so we have termed it as a subset of a product backlog. So once the release is done, the release backlog is created, it gives birth to sprint backlog. So in this sprint backlog, the release backlog is again split into many number of sprint backlogs. So in this sprint backlog, we define few set of features which should be involved for this particular sprint. And for every that sprint, we have a sprint meeting where it usually varies from 1 sprint meeting or 2 sprint meeting based on the project size. And in that team, both the product owner, the team, and the project manager all sit together and they try to discuss on which features should be included for this particular sprint. So, and the last and the final piece of planning is to setting up the sprint goal. So sprint goal is nothing but it is for every sprint there is a defined sprint goal, and in this sprint goal is nothing but constant reminder for the team that what is the sprint whole about, rather than losing their focus on the particular task they have been doing for a long time. So we have completed why the sprint and why the Scrum has been initiated, when and where, and we have discussed about the pre-sprint. So now I would like to call my friend Rajesh to discuss about the sprint process. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul. My friend Rahul was discussing more about the differences between the defined process and empirical process. as well as he was talking about the pre-sprint activities, what the product owner is going to do, and how the backlogs are created. My part of the presentation includes the sprint process, the sprint, as well as the post-sprint meeting, the meeting which is held soon after the sprint. The sprint. The sprint is a fixed time duration during which a specific work has to be completed and it should be made ready for the review. The sprint process says the duration of the duration of the sprint is going to be anywhere between 1 to 4 weeks. The duration of the sprint depends on the complexity of the user story. Say suppose if the complexity of the user story is simple enough, so the user story is going to be short. Sorry, the sprint duration is going to be short. If the user story involves more complexities, so obviously the sprint duration is going to be lengthier. So widely used sprint duration is 30 days, or like we can say as 4 weeks. Author mentions about few basic rules that are to be adhered during the sprint process. He says to get the best out of the sprint, we should adhere to the 4 basic rules during the sprint process. The first one being team members should sign up for the tasks, and he says everyone should work hard to accomplish the accomplish the sprint goal, and everyone should participate in the Scrum meetings. Third one is changes are not allowed during the sprint process. The last one is the Scrum meetings are must. I will be talking more about all these 4 rules in the upcoming slides. The first rule is team members should sign up for the task. You can see in the picture that a particular team member is trying to sign up for a particular task. It is believed that all the team members in the Scrum team are proactive enough to come forward and to pick the task. Say suppose when we have the user stories divided into tasks, each and every team member has to proactively come forward and they have to sign up for the task. That's the author says that's very important feature during the execution of the sprint. Self-organizing. As we all know, the Scrum team is the Scrum team is a self-organizing team. As in the defined process, we have a team leader who is going to distribute the work to the team members. But in the Scrum process, we don't have any specific person to distribute the work to the team members. So it's the responsibility of the team members to collectively collaborate between the team members and to interact and to start working on the new challenges. So each and every team member should interact with the team members, and they should self-organize, and they should face the challenges. Complete ownership of the task. So once the task is picked up by a team member, he should start working on that, and it's his responsibility to complete the task. Say for example, when he starts the work and somewhere at the mid of the work, if he faces with some issues, he can interact with other team members, but it's his own responsibility to complete the task. The next is team as a whole is accountable for the delivery. We know that we just saw that a particular task is the responsibility of a particular team member. In the same way, once we complete with all the tasks, we have to integrate all the tasks, and we have to make a shippable product increment. So it's the responsibility of the whole team to make a shippable product increment. The second rule is everyone works hard to accomplish the sprint goal and participate in the Scrum meetings. In the picture, we can see that the darts are pointing towards the center of the dartboard. That means that each and every team member has to have a same goal, so that it helps them to focus on the same goal and can be achieved in a easier and a faster way. Sprint goal is nothing but a short description of what team is going to achieve during that particular sprint, and this sprint is this goal is defined during the pre-sprint process when product owner and the Scrum team sits together to work on the product backlog and the sprint backlog. The sprint goal is set, so and made aware to the all the team members that the sprint goal, this is the sprint goal, and we have to achieve this sprint goal. uh, the sprint goal will be met within the sprint through the implementation of the product backlog. What we should understand by this is sprint goals are nothing but the implementation of the product backlog. That is nothing but the features or user stories. As and when we complete a particular user story or a product backlog item, it means that we are close to the sprint goal. We are close to accomplishing the sprint goal. So say for example, if we have two user stories to be completed during the sprint, and if we have completed one user story out of two, it means that we are moving closer to our sprint goal. Author says that meetings are very helpful to keep all the team members in the same sync, and it helps them to focus towards the sprint goal. And third rule says changes are not allowed during the sprint. In the picture, we can see that, I can say an example that the product owner is trying to come with a change during the mid of the sprint, which is not allowed during the sprint. Author says that there has to be a zone of stability. That means that there should be a zone of stability, so that there should not be any distraction for the developers to work on. Say for example, when the sprint starts, each and every team member starts working on the tasks, so that they can concentrate only on the task, and they can concentrate to accomplish the sprint goal. Sorry about that. Yeah, they can concentrate more towards the work rather than waiting or looking for the new changes which are going to come. So it simply means that we are going to close the window for the changes. So product owner cannot come up with the new changes. He has to wait. If he really has any changes to be made, he has to wait till the end of the sprint. In the same way, each and every user story will have the priorities. So priorities as well as changes cannot be accommodated during the mid of the sprint. The product owner has to wait till the end of the sprint. Until unless it's an exception case, it cannot be accommodated. If say for example, if the particular change with which product owner is coming up with, if it has a huge financial impact or a huge business impact, then that particular change can be accommodated during the sprint. Here, the role of the Scrum Master would be Scrum Master roles would be to prevent the new changes which are coming in the way. Say for example, if product owner is coming up with a new change during the mid of the sprint, it's the responsibility of the Scrum Master to jump in and say, hey, yeah, you got to wait till the end of the sprint. We are in between the implementation of a previous sprint goal, so we are not supposed to take new sprint goal, and we cannot affect the progress of the sprint goal. The fourth rule says daily Scrum meeting. Daily Scrum meetings are must. Usually the length of the Scrum meetings are going to be very short and very precise. Meetings are going to be precise. Daily Scrum meetings are attended by all the team members. It includes Scrum team members. It includes the Scrum Master. In other cases, even product owner can be part of the daily Scrum meetings, until unless he don't raise his voice during the conversation of the meeting. Daily Scrum meetings are referred to as stand-up meetings. Stand-up meetings reinforces that the meetings are going to be short and precise. Generally, the duration of the Scrum meeting is going to be anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. It's the responsibility of the Scrum Master to make sure that the meeting is not more than 15 minutes. A meeting is not meant to be a place to solve the problems, but rather to make the team aware of the current status. Meaning that it's not a place to discuss about the technical issues which team members are facing with. It is all about it's all about updating the progress to the team members, so that each and every team member will have an update about the have an update how the sprint is progressing. In the daily Scrum meetings, there are three main questions to be addressed. The first one being, what did you do since last Scrum, and what will you do? What will you do before the next Scrum, and what impediments got in the way of your work? This this all I mean Each and every team member has to address these three questions during every daily Scrum meetings. Say for example, if I'm a team member of the Scrum team, so I would be answering to these three questions as, suppose I would say that I worked on the database table creations yesterday, and today I will be working about refinement of the database tables, and what impediments got in your way. I would say that during the connection to the database, I was facing problem to connect to the database, and I had to work more on that, and I was able to I mean I was able to overcome at the end of the day. Scrum Master's role. Scrum Master's role here would be like, if any team member has any issues highlighted during the meetings, he has to make a note of the impediments, and he has to go back after the meeting, and he has to solve all the issues as soon as possible. Say for example, if a team member comes up and says like, he's facing sorry he doesn't have a license to use a particular tool, which he wants that tool to be available for his daily work. Then the Scrum Master would make a note of that, and as soon as the meeting is done, he goes back and he contacts the vendor and he gets the license, and he gives the license to the team member, so that the team member can go forward with his activities. Till now we were discussing about the actual sprint, and various rules that are to be followed during the sprint to get the best out of the sprint. Now we are done with the sprint. So now we are at the end of the sprint, and the next phase of the Scrum process is post-sprint meeting. In the picture, we can see that there are three bowls placed on the table, and a big bowl which is placed on the other table. We can relate to our Scrum process as those three bowls are user stories, which was recognized during the pre-sprint process, and the big bowl which is on the other table is the shippable product increment. So generally, this meeting is just to showcase what goal has been achieved during the sprint. These meetings are attended by product owner, Scrum team members, Scrum Master, as well as if there are any users or stakeholders, even they can be part of the meetings. During the post-sprint meeting, we have to demonstrate the Scrum team members are going to demonstrate the features which are done during the sprint to the customers. Customers here would be product owner, users, and stakeholders. Product owner is going to review all the features which are developed during the sprint, and also the Scrum team members would be highlighting which part of the user stories are completed and which part of the user stories are not completed. The product owner's role here would be like, when he gets an update about the user stories which are completed, and when he gets an update about the user stories which are not completed, he's going to take a call whether the incomplete user stories should go back to the product backlog again. If in case if he feels that the particular user story is not important, or I mean it's not necessary, he can just blindly he can throw the feature off, and he can go with the two user stories which are already ready. If he doesn't feel if he feels like it's a very important feature, he has to go back and update to the product backlog. So that's the end of my presentation. The next part of the presentation is going to be continued by my friend Ankit. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh, for giving me the chance to explain the next slides. So, what Rajesh was talking about meetings. So, why do we have these meetings? Scrum meetings, sprint meetings. What's the reason behind this? The reason is like we need to know what is the progress, how much work has been done, or what needs to be done. So, my topic is monitoring progress. So, what is monitoring progress? It's a daily administrative overhead. It's a daily process where you have to daily identify how much work is done and what work is remaining, who is doing that work. So these are the things what you have to do in a daily procedure. So, and then the Scrum has many powerful tools to monitor progress. And you shouldn't get confused that it's not a time reporting process. It means that an employee who's working for 10 hours doesn't mean that he has done 10 hours of the work which we calculate like how many hours of work we have to complete. It's not that same hours of work in when we consider sprints. And we concentrate on the trend of sprint in this, like how sprint is going, what is the pace in which the sprint is moving day after day. So for this, we have a graph that's called a sprint backlog graph. So in this graph, we find out how many hours or what's the remaining work in terms of hours. So what are the remaining works left after every day. So in this, the developers, they update how much work they have done, how much work on that particular sprint. Like if the sprint needs 3 hours and they have done 1 hour, so that's 1 hour. They just reduce that 1 hour. They just put 1 hour work has been done. And the Scrum Master, he has to analyze this graph every day to make sure that the work is been going on in a smooth pace. And if there are any hurdles, he has to help the developers with those. So in this graph, the horizontal axis, it shows the number of days, which for a sprint can be 2 to 30. And the vertical axis shows the work remaining, how much work is remaining. So let me just go through how this graph is created. So first we calculate the time. So for calculation of time, as Rahul explained about release backlog and sprint backlog. So in release backlog, we have user stories. Every user story has its own time. How much time a user story needs to get completed and to be ship ready, in other words. So every user story. So we put them in sprint, and then we calculate the total time, how much a sprint is needed. So let us take sprint 2 over here. So this is a graph of sprint 2. So as we see, the total number of hours for sprint 2 is 2000. And the days are 0 to 30. So 30 days are the maximum in which we have to complete this sprint. So on the first day, as we can see, it's 1800 hours till 1800 hours are remaining. That means 200 hours of work has been completed on the first day. And we can see, like, it's not a steady graph. It's going in a decreasing order. Every day they're just going down. It has ups and downs. That means we have hurdles. We have some problems coming up in the project. So that increases the time. If you are doing something, if you're working on a sprint, on a user story, which we have done the 50% of the work for that, but suddenly it goes up. There's some problem. So the time increase for the user story. So at the end, we calculate the rate of production. Rate of production is nothing but the slope of this graph, or the average number of hours which are being reduced every day. So in this example, we can say the number of hours which are being reduced every day is 50 hours per day. So if we go by that pace, we are going to complete this whole task in 36 days, which is 6 days more than our scheduled completion time. So what needs to be done now? That this is what they discuss when they have a meeting. They have to make sure the number of days remaining should have more hours than the rate of production at that moment of time. In this case, if we take 50 over there, it should be 90 if in order to complete the work in 30 days. So this is about the sprint backlog graph. Actually, there's another similar kind of graph, as burnout graph, which we have seen in the earlier presentation. But for Scrum, we use this graph. So after this, the second topic I'm going to cover is Scrum contribution. So what is a contribution in Scrum? So there was a heading in, there was an article of CIO magazine in July 1, 2001, which says that now agile development is promising nothing less than 100% success. So for this, Dr. Ken has a different idea. He has a different perspective. He says the success rate, or the probability of success, lies on the complexity of the project. If the complexity of the project is medium to high, no matter which approach you use, there's always a chance of failure. So to show this, he has given us a graph that's called complexity success graph. In this graph, we can see that we have complexity from a low, medium, and high, and we have probability of success that's 0.1 to 0.9. So let it be any approach at low complexity, we can say that the probability of success is very high. But when it comes to medium and high, the probability reduces. It goes up to 0.1. At high, we assume that it's 0.1. And you can see there's an overlay, there's another line on the graph, dotted line, that shows the probability when we use Scrum. And why the probability is more when we use Scrum over there? Because we have flexibility. So when we talk about a highly complex project, or a highly complex project, so in that case, if we see, when we have a highly complex project, when we have flexibility in that, so we can just break it down into medium complexity project into small pieces, and that will increase the probability. So this graph is showing basically that agile approach will always have better success rate or better probability of success than the other approaches. To show this, to give an example on this from the same magazine, there were a case study on 2 companies or 2 projects which have a big time failure, and how agile can be used to improve the chances. I'm going to discuss on that now. So the first one is Portal to Nowhere. The developer for that is Kent Ordman. He was a technical manager at FedEx. So the project was a B2B portal for the parcel delivery industry, and the damage was $15 million for 4 years, or over 4 years basically. So the main reason of the failure are sponsor apathy. What is sponsor apathy? Sponsor apathy is, sponsors, when they lose trust in the firm, when they lose trust in the project, when they lose the trust that this project is going to get accomplished. And second one, developers' bad attitude. Developers' bad attitude comes in pictures when the developers are not ready to take a flexible move. If at the end of a software or at the end of they are just 70% done with the project, and now the project manager comes and they tell him they have few more requirements which need to be added and which are gonna uh, add it up to this first starting like basic where they started from, and they have to change everything. So that's a time when their attitude change. They are not eager to go and repeat everything again. And the third one, executive myopia. So executive myopia is basically when there is no interaction between sales, when there is no interaction between budgeting and the development team, because the development team has to go with the budget. They have to make sure that budget is insufficient and what is needed, the sales team should know. So, how agile development could have what agile development could have done to save that? So, first, sponsor empathy. The sponsor don't have trust because of one of the biggest reasons they don't have any outcome. So, for the 4 years, it took over 4 years. So, for those 4 years, there was no outcome which has been delivered to the sponsors. They were not sure that this project is going to be a success or not. That's the reason they stopped funding the project, and that's one of the reasons the project has to shut down. Then the second one is developers' bad attitude. If you have a flexible approach from starting, if you are working with Agile, which is a flexible approach, if you are working with that, when they have a flexible approach from starting, the attitude problem won't come. And the last one is executive myopia. So as we know in Agile, we have like different levels, different level where people work. Like they have always interaction with the different teams, so that every team should know that what the other team requires, and there won't be any problem with the funds. As the sponsor, if the sales team knows, they can convince the sponsors that if you are investing this much, you're gonna get back this much. The sales team should have confidence on the development team on that. So this was one of first example. The other one was a control system out of control, and the developer for that was John. He doesn't want to mention the company name due to some privacy issues, and the project was storage management software. And this was also a $10 million loss project. It has taken more than 7 years, and there were 35 programmers who has to suffer because of this. So, what are the reasons for failure in this case? The first one is sponsor applicant. It's same. The sponsor don't have trust on the project. The second one is loss of focus. The loss of focus came because one of the biggest reasons of the failure of this project was there were 1800 requirements which was given to the developers at the same time. So in that 1800, the 900 were the main, and the other 900 are there to make these 900 work. So there was no focus on which requirement we should work on which requirement we should leave. Because of that reason, we have, and the other reason is no deadlines. So there was no deadline for any requirement or any version, any particular, particular set of pages or coding to be completed. There was no deadlines for anything, and erratic executives. Because of these, there were no deadlines, and they were like lack of focus because a lot of requirements were there. Executives got erratic. They started going here and there. They started looking for different kind of opportunities because they lost the hope of completion of this project. So, how agile development could have done? How agile development have make this a better result? So, in this case, the same thing with the sponsor apathy. If sponsors know some outcomes, if sponsors have some output, in the in meanwhile, like 7 years, every 6 months, if they're getting some outcomes, So it's gonna always be, they always have a trust in the project, and they always be funding it. Lack of focus. Lack of focus because the requirements are too high. If we divide those requirements in sprint, and this is the first sprint which needs to be done first, second, third, fourth. In that way, if we go, then we can say focus will be always, because you have a limited requirements on which you have to work and you have to complete them in order to go to the next one. So focus won't be diverted because you don't have a big bunch of requirements now. And third one, no deadlines. As we know that every sprint, if we take small, if we break down the requirements or user stories into small, you always will have a timeline. You always will have a particular time to finish those deadlines. And the last one is erratic executives. If executives have a particular they have focus on a particular task what they have to complete, and they have a deadline to complete it, they'll be always looking forward to complete that instead of losing hope on it. So I won't say in these two cases might be even agile could be like a failure, but the result wouldn't be that bad, because there can be a chance that might be these two can be a success if you use this technology. So now next is, I just want to ask at the end one normal question: can project management be this easy? So in my view, it's not easy. It's hard, but it can be simple, because it's easy to identify, but hard to prioritize. It's easy to identify what are the requirements, what are the things what you want in that project, but it's hard to prioritize what are the things who are gonna come first. It's easy to generate, but hard to admit what you don't know. It's easy to generate 1,000 pages of code, but it's hard to admit that you don't know why this code is there. It's easy to fragment, but hard to focus. It's easy to fragment the code, like the task, but it's hard to focus. Like you have to focus on this particular task. You sometimes it will be like you focus on the other first, which needs to be done after this. And the last one, it's easy to scrum but hard to challenge. So with this, I would like to end up this presentation. Thank you. Have a nice day.